The Gospel according to Mark, chapter 5, read from the Remedy. They completed the crossing of the lake and arrived in the land of the Gerasenes. As Jesus got out of the boat, a man whose mind was controlled by an evil angel came out of the burial grounds to confront him. This man lived amongst the dead, and no one had been able to restrain him, not even with chains, even though he had been shackled with chains both hands and feet on numerous occasions. He had broken the chains repeatedly. No one had the means to restore his self-control. He would constantly, day and night, wander the burial grounds and hills about, crying out and cutting himself with sharp objects. But when he saw Jesus, he ran to him and fell down on his knees before him. In a loud voice he shouted, "Why have you come here? What is it that you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I am afraid you are going to torture me. Swear to God that you won't." Jesus had already commanded him, "Let go of his mind and leave him alone, you evil angel." Then Jesus asked him, "What do you call yourself?" "I go by Legion," the evil angel replied, "for there are many of us." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send him away. There was a large herd of pigs feeding nearby. The demonic angels begged Jesus, "Let us go among the pigs and take control of them." Jesus permitted them the freedom to do as they asked, and the evil angels let go of their hold of the man's mind and took control of the pigs. There were about 2,000 pigs in the herd, and they immediately went berserk, stampeded down a steep bank, plunged into the lake, and drowned. The men watching the pigs ran away and told everyone in the town and throughout the countryside what happened. The people who heard it went to see for themselves. When they found Jesus, they saw the man whose mind had been controlled by the legion of evil angels, sitting calm and composed, neatly groomed, and in full control of all his faculties. They were struck with awe. The people who had actually seen what had transpired told the new arrivals how the demon-controlled man had been restored to himself and what had happened to the pigs. Then the locals insisted that Jesus leave their region. As Jesus was climbing into the boat, the man whose mind had been controlled by demonic angels begged to go with him. But Jesus gently told him, "You need to go home. Your family needs to know how much the Lord has done for you, and to see the mercy of God manifest through you." So the man went throughout Decapolis, telling everyone who he met about all that Jesus had done for him, and all those who heard were amazed by what he said. By the time Jesus crossed back over the lake, a large crowd had formed on that side of the lake and gathered around him on the shore. One of the local church leaders, named Jairus, came to him there. He bowed down at Jesus' feet and passionately begged Jesus, "My little girl is dying. Please come and just touch her. I know that if you just touch her, she will be healed and live. Please, come and touch her." So Jesus went to his home, and the large crowd followed. There was a woman in the crowd who had chronic bleeding ongoing for 12 years. She had spent her entire fortune on many doctors. Enduring their supposed treatments, which caused great pain and suffering. But instead of getting well, she only worsened. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him in the crowd, and when close enough, reached out and touched his clothes. She did this because she thought, just touching the clothes of Jesus will be enough to heal me. And instantly, her bleeding stopped, and her body was invigorated with energy, and her pain was gone. Jesus realized instantly that healing energy had gone out from him. He stopped, and turning to the crowd asked, "Who touched my robe?" The disciples were confused and asked, "You're being jostled by this huge crowd of old signs. Then you asked, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus scanned the faces of the crowd, looking for the person who had touched him. Finally, the woman, knowing he was looking for her, stepped forward and knelt down before him, frightened and insecure. She told him what she had done and how she was healed. He smiled at her and said, "Child, your trust is what allowed you to be healed. Live healthy and happy, free from your suffering." While Jesus was still speaking with the woman, messengers from Jairus' house arrived and said, "Your daughter is dead. There's no need to bring Jesus anymore." But Jesus ignored them and looked at the church leader with compassion in his eyes and said, "Trust me. Don't panic. She will be all right." But for this mission, he would not let anyone come along except Peter, James, and his brother John. When they came to Jairus' house, there was near chaos. Some were wailing and crying, while others were speculating on why this happened. Jesus walked in and said with a clear voice, "What is all the crying and fuss about? The child is not dead. She is only asleep." But they mocked and ridiculed him, so he had them all leave. And then, after they were out of the house, he took the child's parents and his disciples who came with him and went to where the child lay. He took her hand in his and said to her, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, get up." Immediately she opened her eyes, took a deep breath, and then stood up and walked around. She was 12 years old. The parents and disciples were overwhelmed with awe. They were all just speechless. Jesus commanded them not to tell people what he had done, and to give the girl something to eat.